All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join us on our second quarter update. Today, we're going to walk through where we stand at the end of the quarter, all the stuff we shipped, what's changed. We'll talk a little bit about the numbers, where we thought we did well, where we missed, and what the priorities are for Q3 that we think are going to move on from Q2. But generally, the simple framing throughout what we talked about here is that Q2 was a heavy quarter of building where we became a platform, this fully verticalized on-chain neobank, and Q3 is the quarter where we have to convert all of the technology we built into distribution. Okay. So yeah, we shipped a lot of stuff in Q2. We shipped Superform OS that allows anyone to launch and operate non-custodial decentralized vault products. We expanded iOS across Europe. We launched Android beta in Q2, but we actually this week launched Android in open access. We shipped Superform Swap across desktop and mobile surfaces. And in May, we added three centralized exchange listings for Up, led by the Korean markets, Up and Bithumb, as well as BitGet. But at the same time, not going to gloss over it. The operating picture was quite mixed. Super Vault deposits in a pretty difficult market for DeFi declined from 34 million at the start of the quarter to 22.9, which is the clearest gap that we're trying to reverse in Q3. Up similarly, we ended the quarter higher than we started. We started around 5 to 6 cents in the beginning. We ended it around a little over 6 cents. But an incredible amount of volatility through the quarter, which is driven by centralized exchange listing momentum. Token has since retraced that entire move, but we believe quarter over quarter we've made good progress on both distribution and price action. But the honest read is that, in Q2, we haven't we created the platform surface area, we created the vault supply, we have created the platform for actually finally distributing to consumers everywhere. And we have all of the pieces between swap and governance staking. We have the validators live, everything. But Q3 is about proving that those services can actually convert into funded, users' deposits. And in particular, there's going to be two metrics that we look for in Q3, which are weekly earn active users and Supervault TVL. But that's the question that we're going to keep coming back to is can Superform convert distribution services into those funded users, deposits, fees, and repeat usage? Okay. So the most important shift that we had in Q2 was Superform's move from being just a yield app that had a mixture of our own vault products that we were curating and others that third parties were permissionlessly listing to an actual vault operating system where people could come to Superform to create things and then get consumer distribution. So the team was previously creating strategies, we were operating them. That model, it worked, but it definitely capped supply and made it so that we were only on Ethereum and Base, and we can only launch and manage a certain amount of those opportunities properly. Superfoam OS finally changes that. It opens up this vault infrastructure to not only external curators, which are currently in crypto, but also new distribution channels, wallets, custodians, exchanges, chains, networks, and reduces the time to market for anyone who actually wants to launch a yield-bearing strategy on chain. So Superform is no longer just an app with these internally managed vaults. It's becoming this layer where this third-party earning supply can be created and instantly distributed to users anywhere in the world. And we think that that's very important at a time when the industry is moving toward these key primitives of more tokenization, more vaults, more yield, and trying to get crypto out to real users. So we're trying to sit at the intersection of all of that. And obviously we have up coordination here. We There's governance over all of the mechanisms here between the vaults, between fee routing incentives. And we've had, some of our community here, even on this call, that has been voting on the direction of where those products should go. So yeah, just an entire coordination system for the asset. Uh, let's talk about the numbers now. Um, Supervault deposits declined 33% this quarter, from 34 to 23 million. We'll actually talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, I believe. Um, up ended up the quarter up around 15% from beginning of April to end of June. All-time high of 28 cents was reached right after we were listed on Korean exchanges. Um, Collectively, the Superform protocol has generated around $100,000 in protocol fees, and that's all fees, not revenue. For including the revenue that users have made on top of the yield products, that's significantly higher. This is very much net income to the protocol, and from SIP 2, which was passed in Q1, that is means that 40% of that 100K is routed towards SUP rewards. So. Uh, we've also grown the Superform user base from TGE to 24,000 upholders, of which around 25% of those users have staked. We have around 5,800 sub stakers, and that represents around 6% of the actual circulating supply that's been staked. And the most important push this quarter was on Superform OS, and we had our first external curators and vaults go live with Byzantine on Flare. And we've spoken extensively already about governance and the exchange listings. So um, the you know right framing for this again is that Q2 was this transition quarter for us to get all these products out. And from here on, we're tracking those two things: earn active users in the app and Super Vault depositors, in both our own apps, but as well as partners. And excited to share this quarter on some of those partnerships. Um, but yeah, that's okay. All right, on deposits. Uh, we believe that it's been a tough quarter for the market, but we are taking what we've built as being reflected in multiple factors beyond just the market. We had vault migrations from V1 to V2. We did change incentives from prioritizing the existing flagship strategies that we had to some of the newer strategies that we're launching with curators. And uh, you know, generally, there was a good amount of churn from these changes to both the underlying strategies and the incentives that we were providing around them. But I want to be very honest about where I think DeFi has gone over the last 6 months, and it's the public perception of DeFi has never been that it's been as risky as it could be, between what we see with AI models and how much code that we previously had on chain. But through all of this, no funds on Superform have been lost. And I think that part really matters. It's not only a risk management approach from ourselves and how we're doing that curation, which we're no longer doing through third-party vaults, but it also validates our protocol architecture and how we've built a lot of our Super Vault products. And I could go on and on about some of the things that we've built on a security level to actually be making this through emergency exits, through circuit breakers on chain, through hypernative, all kinds of threat monitoring. Um, and I think that this should be standard across all Vault products. But we are optimistic that the light at the end of the tunnel for DeFi comes from there being more intentionally managed products with better technology, better decentralized non-custodial technology, which Super Vaults and Superform OS does offer. Um, and yeah, we are going to be launching more and more of these external vaults. First one being with Byzantine, but all of that inherits the track record and the security architecture that Super Vaults have had over the last 2 years since we first launched them at the end of December of 2024. So yeah, now that all of this is live, it's time for us to show that all these surfaces are, the most secure way for people to actually access underlying on-chain yield. Okay, on Superform OS, everyone, most people here are familiar with what we've been doing around it and some of the technical nature around it. So I won't go too into detail there. But the most important thing that Superform OS provides is the permissionless ability to actually launch vaults, and it creates a verifiable strategy engine so that all of the black box stuff of what curators have been, how vaults are currently being operated. It brings that all into surface, and not only what a vault can do, and how it can do it, but it'll actually detail why money is moving the way it is in a vault. So public inspectable strategy execution, we think, is both something that users and regulators are going to want to see in the space. Um, so yeah, we really built Superform OS because we thought that as a consumer product that was actually distributing vaults, that the end product needs to have tighter control over the kinds of yield that's being distributed on the app. And we've always been involved in the aggregation of vaults, and the extension of that was actually creating curated vault supply ourselves. Um, and this is really the beginning of how we're going to seed all of the supply side distribution for the vaults, for the app platform. And we think that this gives us an ability to uh, distribute net new products that are not going to be accessible through other competitor apps. Okay. So yeah, the first proof point of Superform OS was Byzantine Labs on Flare. So Byzantine launched two super vaults. They launched the USDT Zero Vault, which is earning over 13% from Mystic Core Lending Markets on Flare, and the FXRP Vault, which is earning around 3%, which is yield on XRP exposure and XRP lending, but will be expanding both yield sources over time to access things that aren't necessarily just on Flare right now. Um, these are all, they inherit the security architecture of all of what Superform OS has built: validator tested nav updates, bounded execution, all the time lock changes, and the ability for us to kind of scale this across new chains um, is something that we're going to be doing this quarter. But having both Flare and these two opportunities that we think are very much differentiated vault products that are far higher yields than what people are able to access right now. And either of these two assets is a big proof point. So yeah, Alex, you want to take this?
Yep. So in Q2, we had a lot of big milestones on the app side. We launched the iOS app in the entirety of the EU, and the Android app was launched in beta. We ran that beta for a couple months, and as of earlier this week, it's now live in 150 plus countries. Also, every week we continue to add new on-ramps. So really, we're at a point where the app can get to users anywhere in the world on any platform. So our distribution services are no longer a bottleneck. The next step is going to be building awareness through Superform, for Superform through targeted paid media, on-ramp campaigns, referral campaigns, as well as driving home our two key wedges, which are high quality, high yielding opportunities and global access to tokenized assets. As Vic mentioned, the Byzantine USDT Zero Vaults are some of the highest yielding cash opportunities on chain, and also some of the highest yielding opportunities that retail can access from the convenience of their phone. They're currently earning nearly double what Robinhood and Coinbase's 7% fixed rate offerings are yielding. In addition to yield, Superform Swap launched last month, and this enables a very one-of-a-kind experience that lets users fund their trades using any combination of any tokenized assets on any chain. So in Q3, we're going to be building upon that foundation and expanding the range of assets offered on Superform Swap beyond just crypto assets. So overall, Q3 for the app is going to be laser focused on using that new distribution to get installs, converting installs into funded users into depositors, and then depositors into repeat depositors or swappers.
Hey everyone. Uh, I think Vic has covered a lot of the details on this slide already, but I can highlight a few more kind of interesting pieces from this quarter. So one is our focus on transparency around the token led us to complete the Blockworks B1 filing, the last line item there on transparency. We received a 40 out of 40 score there by the Blockworks team for disclosing kind of all the different aspects of the token supply, and how it operates. That's also one of the kind of the leading factors that led us to that Upbit and BitThumb listing that led to, obviously a lot of price action this quarter. I think we're one of the few projects that is on both Korean and American spot exchanges, and that's a testament to our kind of transparency and focus as a business on providing all the information necessary to complete both of those extremely long DD processes that allow us to operate there. So that's kind of an important highlight from this quarter outside of just the price action alone. Second is we now have a lot stronger volumes as a result of this listing. So you'll notice if you look back historically, there wasn't prior to up at BitThumb and BitGet as much exchange volume trading up until those listings. So that's kind of a nice lasting impact, even if price retraced from that up at and BitThumb listing. Also similarly, kind of one of the positive effects is our net holder rate has gone up over the quarter. So not displayed on this slide, but we had around 20,000 holders of the token prior to this quarter, largely from the initial airdrop. At the end of this quarter, we netted out another additional 4,000 holders to now that 24,000, 25,000 number. So we're seeing a nice trend of increasing holder even through this volatility, which is great to see. We also, as Vic mentioned, have a high staking rate. At its peak, I think that was around $3 million of up, held, and sub. Now that's closer to $1 million as it tracks the price of up. But still, we're seeing high, user participation rates at, nearly 6,000 stakers. One other kind of interesting piece is that the initial airdrop one from Superform closes tomorrow. So kind of all of the initial emissions that have been out over the course of the process of the TG is basically wrapping up as of the end of this week. We can move on to governance now. One of the highlights of kind of Superform generally is our community participation. We've had some of the highest participation of any snapshot token-based governance anywhere in DeFi. And if you go look at some of the largest protocols, you'll see that 250 voters is near the top, higher than many, many other much larger billion-dollar established projects. So we're extremely proud of that. That's driven by our very active community, as seen by lots of the participants on this call. Three of the votes that we wanted to highlight that kind of reinforces why the community is so interested in Superform is they have direct control over what is happening, and through their votes with the token, they have to stake into SUP to be able to vote, and from there they can vote on these critical initiatives that allow the Superform protocol to operate. The first is validator bonding. So this creates a $1 million or one, excuse me, 1 million up token bond per validator to validate supervaults. That creates use cases for the up token as well as helps secure the validator set. In the case of anybody reporting different Oracle prices to those supervolts. Now there's a at stake amount that can be slashed theoretically if something were to go wrong. So that creates both token utility, and we've seen that this was extremely popular amongst our community with the highest votes all time for us of 257 votes, and that passing. Another interesting aspect is we had our first rejected proposal showing that the community is actually reading what's going out there, and they care about the outcomes of these votes. The first one was rejected, which was a 20% target that was a purely emission based yield for SUP. Instead, the community passed SIP 8, which was a fee-backed SUP model where it allows protocol revenue to grow beyond some sort of fixed APY target for that SUP vault, and reduces overall treasury emissions entering the market. So a very responsible and thoughtful proposal passed, and rejection of the initial proposal, which is great to see. So overall, really strong community-led governance here that's leading to strong outcomes. One other kind of sub point of the substaking is that it's also compounded by the fact that we have the FDB Club, which is our community club that provides community content rewards for continuing participation into SUP and to governance and to creating content for the community. We had over 192 participants there that earned FTB points, which earns kind of quarterly allocation. That quarterly up allocation was voted on in Q1 and first paid out in Q2. That allows the community to continue to complete quests that use Superform, continue to stake the token, participate in all things that makes the Superform community great. I can hand it over, I think, to you now, Vic.
Yep. Okay. So this has taken us over a year and a half to now build with Superform V2, but it's now all finally live. The full Superform loop is there. So starting with, curated Super Vault supply that gives users net new earning products. We, launched that first earning products on XRP, and, high stablecoin rates that are, double what a lot of our competitors are offering. That then leads to new app distribution, which Alex spoke about on, us having both iOS and Android app services live, and then adding other, high value activities, financial activities that users might want to do on an app, which is swap. We'll add more financial features, and then we'll also be distributing our Vault products through partners. That leads to more user activity, more depositors. That means more fees from Vault activity, from swaps, from protocol flows. We just launched on-ramps this week, not taking a fee there, but there's an option for a lot of those flows to be monetized. We're still planning on scoping and launching the credit card. Lots of services where those protocol fees can compound as we get more activity in the app. All of that through governance proposals that everyone here has voted on. That then turns into value routed into buybacks for up, which is then distributed according to SIP 2 and SIP 3 into SUP. And then those up tokens and sub tokens can then be used to either fund upkeep for vaults, or also be used to start validators and generally control and govern the system. So that's the whole loop, and that's been the vast majority of that was all of last year, and the first 2 quarters of this year it was building this. And the Q3 mandate now is to prove that this loop scales. And we do know that more supply should drive more distribution, and that should drive more activity. And we've gotten to the to fees right now, and now the question is just how can we close the loop here and make sure that we're distributing these products in the best way. All right, so this is the market map for where we want Superform to be. This is, the ambition of Superform. It's not necessarily where we stand right now. We're not fully there, but so you guys can see how we're thinking about, where we want Superform to sit here. Is the position is between protocol native yield generation and partnered consumer distribution. So if the Superform app succeeds, it becomes this non-custodial permissionless access layer for everyone to use for this broader set of on-chain products. It's not just on-chain strategies that we see right now in DeFi, but it is this expanded set of products that are coming on chain that we can now distribute globally and permissionlessly, potentially without KYC for some of these products, just day one. And you guys could already see some of the early signs of what that distribution means for us when we launched Android in 169 countries. We're able to go global on day one with all these products, and we're going to be launching tokenized equities next week, and that'll be a product that everyone can access on Android day one, regardless of where you are without KYC. So the question for us is, mostly how we can solve fiat on ramps and everything else people have historically not been able to touch. But we want to use the power of censorship resistant open source software, right? That Ethereum has been championing for the longest time, using that to scale the platform the same way how blockchains have. But at the same time, distribution is a very important avenue for us. But we do have best-in-class vault products, what we believe are best-in-class vault products through Superform OS, and we will be, scaling that through partner products. And we have our base app with Coinbase, and lots of exciting distribution partnerships are going to be going after this quarter. Okay, so that's the question: is distribution must convert? And there are three priority wedges that we've identified here. First thing is XRP, which we've found that opportunity out with Flare and Byzantine. But just generally large pools of capital that are historically sitting on unproductive assets, getting them to come on board. And XRP is the perfect example of something that has been traditionally retail asset, with a lot of people looking to earn yield on. Stablecoin wedge, we have known that exists for a while, but we had quite a bit of success in SuperVault's V1 among crypto natives, but now it's about getting those dollar products into the hands of more people across the world. And then the last wedge, which I briefly mentioned on the last slide, is we are going to be launching tokenized equities with Coinbase on Base next week, and that's an entirely new asset category for Superform OS. We will allow people to access this from any jurisdiction where the app is live, actually except for the US. And people can they can on ramp, they can then purchase these products, and then they can also earn yield on top of them. So that'll be a big push for us in Q3. And collectively, these three wedges for us, XRP, stablecoins, equities, that then needs to convert into these two top level metrics for Q3, which is weekly earn active users across all of our platforms, and then Super Vault deposits, which could be coming through our app, but also through distribution partnerships. Great. Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. I mean, just to close, I guess, you know, Q2, we built the platform. Q3, time for conversion and distribution, but we have all of the parts required for the entire platform thesis between Superform OS, the app, everything. And this next phase is just execution discipline, and showing that we can actually convert all of this stuff. So, yeah, appreciate your time. We can open it up for Q&A now. If you guys have more questions, we have a couple that we've already sourced, but if there are more, feel free to just drop them in the chat, I think, and we should see those. Um, but yeah. Uh, okay, the first question that we had that we had collected before was how the use cases of up will change over time. And we've already kind of seen through some of the governance proposals, like what our thinking is on the use case of SUP, but a little bit more on Up itself. So we want Up to continue to become more and more integrated in the actual governance system itself. And that means, more things that we can do around fee services, determining, what percentage of those fees, what things we are taking fees on, all these new products that we're launching. That'll be an ongoing, discussion with the community and trying to figure out what the balance is between those products that we're launching, getting adoption for them, and also taking fees. We did over the quarter launch validators, which is probably the largest use case right now of that SUP. We will be introducing, the permissionless, the bonding module that hasn't launched yet, but right now we still do need the 1 million SUP bond, but we hope when we can prove these three wedges over Q3 that we will add that. And then I guess related to this question was also a comment on what we're doing for the up token and the up price. And our take on this is that we're going to continue shipping, and they're going to be continuous use cases of up, and it's one of the few tokens that are actually representing this ownership that has been voted on in this decentralized governance, to actually get these cash flows of Superform. And we think that as we sit in this intersection of what, the three most interesting things going on right now in crypto, and in my opinion, and I think popular opinion of vault tokenization and neobanks, is that the market will appreciate what we're building. We're just going to continue executing. And with our additional distribution services that we've gotten over this quarter in Asia, we're very optimistic that we can leverage a lot of those East Asian relationships into something that actually helps the protocol platform. Um, so yeah, that was the answer to that question. And then we had another question on what the plans were for FTB. Maybe Blake, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, happy to. So, there's a number of new quests that are being released actually this week. If you log in, you'll see them today already. Primarily focused on some of the new campaigns that we've launched. So we have Android app quest as well as two Flare quests currently live, and you can also still qualify for the iOS quests. Content has also changed now with the focus on engagement and more short form video content. So previous quarter was more focused on kind of X and existing crypto native channels, but this quarter we want to focus on branching out to new social platforms that can help expand the Superform audience. You'll also see, Superform's primary brand accounts on both Twitter, or excuse me, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are much more active now, with that purpose in mind as well. So that's the goal of both Superform and the community. And we're also always open to new ideas for the FTB club. If you guys have different ideas of what to add into that, we're all ears. It'll continue to reward you guys for staking your stuff and participating in all the different ways that make the Superform community great.
All right. There are no more questions. Uh, Thanks everybody for the time and for listening. We'll publish a recording of this shortly after whenever we have it, and we'll put out a recap thread as well. But yeah, thanks for being with us, and excited for next quarter. Thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks all.